What's up? What's up, everybody? Happy Thanksgiving.
Can you believe we're
Thanksgiving.
already saying it?
Oh, I can't believe it. And it is my favorite holiday.
Oh,
I
really?
think Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday of the year. Yeah, I think so. I like Thanksgiving. I like Christmas because I like to give gifts, but at the end of the day, uh, you know, my kids are unappreciative anyway. Like they don't care. They're just like, I give me more. Give me more. Whatever you're giving me, I need more. And I get
Just
it.
a little context. How old are your
Uh,
kids?
6 and 4.
Yeah, there you go.
6 and 4. It'll be funny if they're like 18 and 20.
Yeah.
Give me more. I
Yeah.
want more. What's up, guys? Hope I see everyone in the chat here. Thanks for joining. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about today. We're gonna go over all three Thanksgiving games tomorrow. I know there's a lot of lineups that need to be kind of set. Before going into tomorrow's games, we got our early game, we got a midday game, and we have a night game tomorrow. So keep that in mind. All right. We got what do we have going on? So let's see. So we have Bills at Lions. That's the first game. Then Giants at Cowboys, and then we got Patriots at Vikings. So couple decent games. The Patriots at Vikings one. That's an interesting one. We'll see if the Patriots defense can give them some issues. Giants Cowboys fighting for first place in the NFC East,
Second,
and they're fighting
right?
for Odell Beckham.
Yeah, second place.
Second, I'm sorry. They're
Yeah.
fighting for second in the AFC in the NFC. It's I keep forgetting that both of them have good records, but there's another team there.
Right, right, yeah.
And then the Bills at Lions, in Detroit. So maybe, just maybe, it can be somewhat of a competitive game, but we'll see. I wanted to, before we get into it, this episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. All right, there's a lot of pick'ems that you could choose from, obviously, because there's 3 games tomorrow. Okay, so it's extra exciting, and we're all going to be watching the games. It's going to be even more fun if you put some entries in on Underdog. And before I get into the special promotions that are going on tomorrow, because there are a couple of them that we got to talk about, real quick, what Underdog is, especially specifically the pick'ems, and they also have tournaments, by the way, too. You could draft players for tomorrow throughout tomorrow's game, and you'll be competing against other people that you draft against. And whoever has the highest points at the end of the day, they win money. Okay, so it's a pretty cool way to play. Now, let me explain Underdog Pick'ems. And if you're not aware of what that is, you have an entry with 3 to 5 picks. Basically, you choose higher or lower on a bunch of different stat lines, whether it's Dak Prescott over, 263, 263 yards, 246 yards, higher or lower, and they have basically all the players in tomorrow's games. You can choose higher or lower on their respective stat lines. You throw them into an entry, and if you if you get 3 right, you 6 times your money. If you choose 4 right, you 10x your money. Whatever you put in, $5 will get you $40 if you get 4 right. And if you get 5 right, if you choose 5 in your entry, you're gonna 20x your money. Okay, so it's a pretty cool way to play. $100 will turn to 2,000. Okay, that's the basic. That's the basic. Rules and all that kind of stuff. It's really fun to play. Now, if you use the code Upper Hand Fantasy, you're going to double your first deposit up to $100. But let me tell you about the promotions going on tomorrow as well. And by the way, you can put in those pick'ems today. Like, you can sign up today, use code Upper Hand, and you can put in those pick'ems today. And as you can put in as many entries as you want. But one entry that you want to make sure to put in is one that includes Dak Prescott, and it's only going to cost you $1. But you include Dak Prescott in the entry, higher or lower. You said it was what, Zach?
I think it's 246 this week.
246 passing yards. I think I'm leaning the over just by a hair. I think.
I think it's the over. Yeah.
Yeah, you think it's the over too because you're the cow. You're a Cowboys fan, so of course you can think it's the over. If it's 320 passing yards, you think it's the over too. But you got to include him in your entry. You choose 4 other stat lines that you like for a total of 5. You put in $1, and if you get all 5 of them right, you're gonna win $100. Okay, that's a special that they have going on. So it's only gonna cost you $1, and you have a chance to win 100. You're not competing against anybody. You're just competing, with yourself and with these. As long as these players do their thing, higher or lower, you're gonna win some money. Okay. Ricky in the chat is asking, is it better than Prize Picks? Yes, it is. And okay, so then the other thing is, if you never played pick'ems before, you're going to see a Justin Jefferson line for over or under or higher or lower than 0.5 receiving yards, not touchdowns, for receiving yards. So basically, it's a free play.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to be able to put, if you're new to Pick'ems, you're going to be able to put Justin Jefferson in your entry. You're basically going to get a free pick as long as he has more than his 1 yard or more. That's all he needs. Okay, so make sure to take advantage of that. If you're not signed up for Underdog already, make sure to download the app. We'll have the link in the description of the podcast and on YouTube, and you can click that link, use code upper hand, and they will double your deposit up to $100. Okay, but let's get into the games, man. And by the way, I did post some picks over on Instagram, so if you're wondering like what picks I like, I can just tell you right now. I like Saquon over 76.5 rushing yards. We talked about this before. You know, Dallas defense, not the best rushing defense, right? They're much better against the pass. But for me, what it is like when it comes to Saquon, like his lines have been around 100 yards, 90 plus yards, 100 yards. So because of last week, his line is very depressed, up 76.5, right? So like when that happens, I'm going to take the over on that, like especially when it comes to Saquon, somebody who will likely get some volume. And this is a division game. This might be a close one. I also like him to score as well. So, a 0.5 scrimmage touchdowns, whether he catches one or rushes one in, he hasn't scored, and I think it's been a couple games since he scored. So like, I feel like he's due.
Yeah, we could check that. But, I'd bet definitely, for Saquon to have a big day after a bad day. I don't expect him to have a bad day 2 weeks in a row. Not like last week where, what did he have? Like 15 carries for 20 yards? It was just like really bad. But
yeah, he didn't score last week, but he did score the week before that. He did.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, he did score the week before that and the week before that. So, all right, he didn't score last week, but we're seeing that he scores more often than not this season. I'd take him to score at least in a big game.
I liked about this one was that, they're allowing you to do either or, rushing or receiving. Yeah. Usually they just show the rushing touchdown. They're showing rushing and receiving. So that's what I like about that. Whichever way he scores, that will count.
I feel like
Darius Slayton, I also like him, 47.5 receiving yards. I don't think Darius Slay, I'm sorry, I don't think he's going to be shadowed at all. Like Diggs is not going to shadow him. He's going to move around, a little bit. So 47.5, he's their wide receiver one. Wandale is going to be out, obviously. So I feel like he can go over that pretty easily.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen Darius Slayton do his thing, but going back to Saquon, I think he is going to score because who the Giants have anymore as receiving options or even offensive weapons outside Daniel Jones and his legs. I think that definitely two guys. Darius Slayton, he's just kind of the number one by default, and he's all right. He's been playing pretty well. And Saquon Barkley, he's going to be getting plenty of touches. So I definitely take the overs on them in this game.
Yeah, and we're going to get into quarterback rankings and running back rankings today too. In addition to reading the games yet. By the way, this is not us previewing the games. We're just talking about our picks. Robinson, right? I think he goes higher than 3.5 receptions. He is very involved in the passing game. Matt Jones loves to pass it down to him. If you look at what Ramondre did over the past few games, 6 targets, 7 targets, 7 targets, 8 targets, 5 targets. I feel like 3.5, that's a little bit of a gimme. So I will take that every time.
Right.
Jacoby Myers, higher than 4 receptions. This is a great matchup out of the slot against the Vikings for Jacoby. He's their number one guy. I'm going with him over 4 receptions pretty easily. And TJ Hawkinson, he's been getting target share over the last 2 games. He's their second target now over Thielen. So I think he's going to easily hit that 4 reception mark. I have him as over higher than 4 receptions. And Jamal Williams, this is the one I wanted to ask you about. The Lions, they might be down 2 of their interior linemen potentially. Now, guards don't have a huge impact, but they could have some sort of impact. Higher than 14.5 rushing attempts against the Bills. Now, if this game gets out of hand, then maybe he sees less than that. But I have a feeling that they're going to try to run the ball against this team. The Lions defense has been playing a little bit better. I feel like he can get over 14.5 in this game.
I think he can. Anything the Lions are going to do on the ground, it's going to run through Jamal Williams first and foremost, especially if they get down on the goal line. They could run him into the pile 3 times in a row if they need to at the goal line. So that's all you need to count on, just carries. This is one where it's not reliant on production. It's just, is he going to get the ball handed to him? So that I do like that. Even though I'm thinking the way the Bills played last week, it's going to be a negative game script for the Lions, the most of the game. I think that Jamal Williams, they're gonna have to balance it just a little bit. They can't just go full on pass, especially if they go down early. They have a whole first half, regardless of what the score is, to run the ball, and Jamal Williams is going to get most of the carries. Yeah, so I like that one. I think higher makes sense.
Nice, love it. All right, sign up, use code Upper Hand, make your first deposit today to double that deposit up and take advantage of all the Turkey Day specials that they have going on. Okay, let's get into it, man. Bills at Lions. You're obviously starting Stephon Diggs, no question about it. Josh Allen, we'll talk about him, but I have him ranked as my QB3 for the week.
Yep.
So you're obviously starting him. Devin Singletary, this is a game where the Lions' run defense has played better as of late after their bye. They kind of turned the page a little bit. They've been playing good football overall, and I'm not mistaken, they have a 3-game win streak now. So, I do think that Devin Singletary is a solid start. James Cook was a little bit more involved last week, but I think Devin Singletary still had like 18 carries or so. So like, he's a solid start. I have him as a back end RB2, if that. By the way, guys, there's no bye weeks this week. Okay, every team is playing all 32 games. We're gonna have 16 games this week, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Obviously, 3 of those games are going to be on Thanksgiving. One of those games is going to be on Monday, but we're still going to have a fantastic Sunday. So I'm looking forward to that. But Devin Singletary, I actually have him right outside my top 24, and we'll get into the top 30 running backs here in a second. But he's a solid start, but he's not someone that I have to have in my lineup this week.
Yeah, I'm not, too crazy about Devin Singletary, and I'm just not a big Devin Singletary fan in general.
And it's crazy because this is against the Lions, right? You would think that, like, oh yeah, it would be all over him.
Yeah, but with James Cook, I kind of liked what I saw from James Cook. I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to get, a decent workload, at least compared to what he was getting earlier in the season. I'm not saying he's going to vulture enough snaps to make Devin Singletary, obsolete, but I think low-end RB2 is where I'd have him. If he scores a touchdown, he might have mid RB2 upside, but he's not in the RB1 range as far as upside, just because James Cook is there and just the way this offense operates with Josh Allen, doing his thing, and Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis in the passing game. This could get out of hand quickly. They might not have to use the running backs a whole lot. But, if Devin Singletary scores a touchdown, I think that he's going to be, right in that RB2 conversation. Low-end RB2 for me, even if he does score a touchdown.
Yeah, pretty much. And you kind of need a touchdown from him if he's going to score, because if James Cook is going to be a little bit involved, then his ceiling and floor lowers a little bit. Who else? Gabe Davis, solid matchup this week. Nothing too amazing. He might see a little bit more of Okuda than Diggs. If Okuda decides not to travel. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the receiving core. Dawson Knox, he's like a mid tight end 2. Like, he's not somebody that I'm looking to start. He had 2 good games, but I'm only starting him if I'm really desperate at the position and there's not much else available on the waiver wire.
Yeah, Dawson Knox, he's just kind of a plug and play, where if you're stuck and you need someone to play, you can throw him in. If you had Kyle Pitts and throw somebody in just for upside in this matchup, it could be good. Dawson Knox, I thought maybe he'd be doing better in this offense, but they haven't featured him the way that he could be. And so I think that he falls in that, just if you want to just take a shot in the dark and see what the upside is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good matchup. It's a good matchup. It's a decent shot in the dark, especially given the fact that he's been coming on a little bit over the last couple of games.
Yeah.
But, I'm not excited to play him by any means. I think that's it for the Bills offense. On the Lions, obviously, you're starting Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's a, top 6-7 fantasy wide receiver this week. Jamal Williams, DeAndre Swift, I don't want to start DeAndre Swift. Like, he has to score a touchdown if he's going to do anything. You can hope that he does something because it's Thanksgiving, but a nationally televised game. But I'm really not excited to start him at all. I'm looking for options to bench him. So Jamal Williams, though, I would play him as a solid RB2 this week. I have him at RB17 for the week. Fine playing him even against the Bills. The Bills have been up and down against the run this year. I'm not. It's never about the volume with Jamal Williams. It's like, who cares? He's going to give you 17 carries for 62 yards and 4 touchdowns. That could easily happen. It's not going to happen this week, but he can score a touchdown or 2, and that's kind of why you're starting him. So that's really what it comes down to with Jamal. I'm not expecting him to have a 100-yard game or anything like that, but it's really about the touchdowns. So it's really hard to bench him, right? He's like the Amari Cooper, of running backs this year, where it's like you can't take him out of your lineup because he ends up having these big games.
Yeah. With this Lions backfield, it could be Jamal Williams if they can keep it competitive. If it gets out of hand, I don't want to be, too excited about DeAndre Swift. And nobody's excited about DeAndre Swift. But I don't want to blow too out of proportion with what he could be. But if this goes into a negative game script, could we see more DeAndre Swift? I don't know. It's just it's
we're gonna
hard
see
to
Justin Jackson.
Yeah, it's hard to project that because Justin Jackson has been playing over him. I want to say DeAndre Swift is going to get that work, but for some reason, it seems like DeAndre Swift is healthy and he's just not getting the carries, which makes no sense. We've discussed this a lot, but maybe he does something. If you remember last year on Thanksgiving, all DeAndre Swift did for you was pick up 2 points and then get injured. Hopefully that doesn't happen again this season, but I could see starting DeAndre Swift if you're really desperate. And that's where I am in the one league right now. So I guess I can relate to those DeAndre Swift owners out there. You don't want to start him, but if you have nothing else, I think he has a chance to at least be a low end RB2 if things fall the right way. If this is a negative game script, I think that he has that in him. It just comes down to the usage. And I think if they're not going to give him the ball in a competitive game, if it's a non-competitive game, maybe they'll get him more touches. That's all you can really hope for. His floor is still like, 2 points, which is not good enough to start at all.
Yeah, I'm gonna not start him. I'm not gonna start him. Right. DeAndre Swift, he did get some of the 2-minute snaps last week, which was nice. Which is weird. It was weird that Jamal Williams got some of that instead of Justin Jackson. But that's what it was looking like. So these roles are interchangeable here. Justin Jackson, like, if you're Dan Campbell, it's like, if by the way, I don't think DeAndre Swift is healthy. That's why he's not playing. I don't think he's completely healthy. No, not at all.
How could he?
Because if he was healthy, he would be playing.
Yeah. So that's the thing. It's like, I'm not a doctor, but I feel like at this point he has to be at least closer to 100% than he was a couple of weeks ago when they got the same workload.
Yeah, I would agree. But like, it looks like he's not there, and even DeAndre Swift is not going to be there, right? So it's possible that because of that, they're just limiting him, right? And the fact is, they won 3 in a row, so they didn't have to play him. And on top of that, Justin Jackson, 9 carries for 66 yards last week, 1 catch for 11. So you got 10 touches, 77 yards for Justin Jackson last week. So it's like,
so he's efficient.
why put DeAndre Swift at risk? Why do it? Right? He's our franchise running back.
Well, we think. I don't know. They're not using him like one. I feel like if he was a franchise running back, they'd use him.
I think it's because he's not healthy. I really do. I don't think that this is a situation where they just don't think he's good. That would be. It's either they don't think he's good or he's not healthy. And I think he's not healthy because they've all come out and said that he's not healthy. So that's where I'm leaning here. So what else? So besides that in the Lions, like I don't want to start Jared Goff at all. You'll see where I have him, or maybe not, because he might be outside my top 20. That's pretty much it. Oh, never mind. I think that's it. I was going to say Hawkinson.
Hawkinson. No, you wanted to talk. You want to put Brock Wright in your lineup?
No, I don't. Giants or Cowboys. Obviously, start Saquon. You're starting. I think Darius Slayton is like a back end wide receiver 3 this week. Maybe more. Maybe actually, I would say he's a flex play. I would say Darius Slayton's an upside flex play. That's what I don't even think I could put him in my top 36. You could play him. The matchup is okay. It's nothing. It's not a matchup that you need to necessarily stay away from because he's going to move around a little bit outside of where Diggs defends on that left side of the offense. Like it's not a shutdown, so I wouldn't worry about that. What else do we have here?
I think with this game, it's going to be a run-heavy game for the Giants. That's going to have to be the game script because the Cowboys players last week came out and said it themselves that they're best against the pass, and they have Saquon Barkley in the backfield, and that's why I kind of think that's going
to be the game plan going into the game. We'll see what happens in the second half, though.
That's the thing. So if Dallas can get ahead, which their offense has looked really good, I think they're averaging like 35 points a game since Dak came back. They've looked good. The thing the Giants have to do is run the ball and keep Dallas from scoring and getting up early because that's been the formula for the Cowboys so far this season. And then that turns into not so good fantasy days for running backs. But if you're going to execute that game plan with anybody, it's going to be Saquon Barkley. And he should get those carries and he should be effective because Dallas has been actually pretty bad against the run, even though the defense as a whole is good. They're much better against the pass. So I think Saquon Barkley could have a big day. If they're going to keep it close, it's going to go through Saquon Barkley. So Darius Slayton, I think he has a little upside, but just the passing volume this whole season has been very low. Last week it went up. It was a spike, but it was because they were way down. I don't think that's going to happen again. Not 2 weeks in a row, at least, because this Giants defense is actually, a little bit better than we give him credit for, maybe. So I think Darius Slayton, he could be a factor as long as it's close. If it gets out of hand, he's not going to be much of a factor. Saquon Barkley, though, should be locked in 100%. I can see him having a big game. And Daniel Jones at quarterback, I'm not sure how much they're going to get him on the move. You hope they do if you're the Giants. And if you have him in fantasy, I think last time he played against Cowboys, he ran for 90 yards. So he could have a nice floor for you going in this week because he's played the Cowboys a lot, and he's always been good with his legs against Dallas.
Yeah, I have him as my QB 12 this week. I've had him ranked higher over the past couple of weeks, but I think he's solid. A solid start this week. The guys I have behind him are Kirk Cousins, Tom Brady, Mariota, Brissett, like guys like that, right?
Yeah.
So I think, even though the matchup isn't amazing, I think, like you said, because of the legs, you could potentially, put him in your lineup and be fine. Solid streamer this week.
Yep.
What else? What else do we have in this game? On the Cowboys side, CeeDee Lamb, you're obviously starting him. Pollard, like you got to keep starting him, like you have to. At this point, the fact that Zeke came back last week, got some touches, got a couple of goal line carries, but then Pollard was still able to do his thing in the pass game as well, going over 100 receiving yards on 6 catches. He's going to be continuing to do his thing, man, and he's very hard to bench. I have him as my RB10 for the week, so I have him as an RB1, and I think he's gonna come through because he's been coming through. And against the Giants have been a solid defense, but they are pretty leaky in the run game. So it's possible that Tony Pollard can be efficient in this game. So I'm perfectly fine keeping Pollard in your lineup. Hopefully you started him last week. I will continue to do so.
Yeah, I think both of the Cowboys running backs are startable. If you have Zeke, I don't think there's any reason to worry too much about him. He doesn't have upside, obviously, but at this point, you're not playing him for the upside. He's going to have, just a solid game for you each week. The Cowboys deliver him right to the goal line. That's the way it's worked these past few weeks. He's been really solid. So you can start Elliott. Pollard is obviously a strong start, I think. At this point, Dallas is leaning more towards giving him like at least an even amount of carries compared to Ezekiel Elliott, where earlier this season that wasn't the case. Both running backs are startable. You can have them both in your lineup. Tony Pollard has the RB1 upside. Ezekiel Elliott's going to be an RB2 at best. Otherwise, I think he might finish as a low end RB2, mid RB2, if he scores those touchdowns. And Dak, throwing in CeeDee Lamb. If Dallas doesn't have to rely on the receivers, which they haven't been, this season, at least since Dak has come back, they've relied on the ground game and throwing to the running backs. Maybe CeeDee Lamb has another quiet game. I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes. But Dak has just been efficient at this point, and that's all he's been asked to do. It could be a quieter game than some people think. Dallas also historically has been not so good on Thanksgiving these past few years. I think they're 2-6 in their last 8. So we'll see how it goes. But I think Tony Pollard's the best bet to produce on this Cowboys offense, going into this week and moving forward.
I have Zeke as my RB31 on the week. So he's like a mid RB3 now. And I think that's what he's going to be going forward. And you got to keep in mind that all these running backs are back now. So, on a normal week where there would be 4 teams on bye, you might see him at like RB20 or 21. But now that all these running backs are back, like I'm playing a lot of these running backs over Zeke Elliott. Like I'm playing. You ready to hear the running backs I'm playing over him? Latavius Murray, Deontay Foreman, Michael Carter, Devin Singletary, Rachaad White, Gus Edwards, Leonard Fournette, Cordell Patterson. Guys I'm playing him over: Isaiah Pacheco, Najee Harris, James Robinson, DeAndre Swift. Is that all? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I know what you're saying. I think that's fair. Would you start Elijah Mitchell over him or no?
No, I wouldn't, because I think at the end of the day, like CMC is going to get those goal line carries, and Elijah Mitchell might get some volume, but it might be empty calories, and he might end up getting, at least Zeke has that upside of potentially getting a touchdown or 2 at the goal line.
That's true.
Yeah. And I think Zeke, is more chances that Zeke catches like a pass or 2 than Elijah Mitchell, who's not even running any routes right now.
Yep. That makes sense.
But yeah, and we'll get into the running back rankings in a minute, and we'll kind of talk to you guys about, where we have them and why. You're going to start Dalton Schultz as the top 5-6 tight end this week. pretty easily. If you have him, you're probably going to start him. That's pretty much it. And Dak, he's been killing it, man. He's been doing his thing since he's been back. I have Dak as the top 7 quarterback this week. Let's see. I have him as top 7. I have him at QB7.
Yeah,
this
he's
week.
just been.
I think he's going to continue to be solid.
He's just been a super safe start. Like there's no reason to worry about him starting this week or moving forward. As long as he's healthy, this Cowboys offense is pretty stacked, and the offensive line is doing him plenty of favors. It looks much better than it did week 1. So I like Dak move forward. He's a QB1 every week. I don't think the upside's there necessarily because he is a distributor. He's not going to be, and the Cowboys are more run first at this point. But he's been super efficient since he came back, so he's a QB1.
100%. Daniel, appreciate you, man. Any word on the Rams quarterback this week in 12-team 2 quarterback leagues? Yeah, I mean, we haven't heard yet, right? Matthew Stafford's in the concussion protocol right now. We don't know if Wolford is going to start. The hope is that Wolford doesn't start because if you're in a 2 quarterback league, you'd rather start. Who is their back? Who is their third string again?
Bryce Perkins.
Yeah, Bryce Perkins. So Bryce Perkins is the quarterback. You can actually I felt way better starting him than Wolford because at least Perkins has the legs and he can run the ball. Right. So that's the hope. I would just pick up at the end of the day, I don't think Stafford's going to play this week.
I don't think he's going to either.
I would just pick up Perkins at the end of the day, and then just have him on deck.
There's no reason for the Rams to shove Matthew Stafford back in the lineup. This is a lost season. You want to hold out hope if you're a Rams fan, but it's a lost season. There's so many injuries. Even if Stafford does come back, I'd be tempering expectations for his fantasy production. He was having an all right game against the Saints, but without Cooper Kupp, I don't think that's going to go week to week. That's not going to be something that can be consistent. He actually looked good in his action, but at this point, I know we're not going to talk about shutting him down yet this season, but another loss. What situation that he's in right now, there's no reason to put him back on the field and risk it again.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Let's see. Okay. I'm working off my notes here, guys. I'm sorry. It's a little bit of a different type of podcast today. We're given Thanksgiving coming up. So I think that's it, right, for the Cowboys. I think we hit all that. Let's move to the Patriots and Vikings game real quick. So the Patriots, man, Ramondre Stevenson, I have him as an RB1 this week, if I'm not mistaken. I have him as my RB11 overall this week against Minnesota. And we talked about it before where, the Rams aren't necessarily, I'm sorry, the Vikings aren't necessarily a good matchup or anything like that, but he didn't have a good matchup last week either against the Jets, and he was still able to get it done through the air. He's going to be, he gets peppered in the pass game. He gets a bunch of targets coming out the backfield. So even if Damian Harris is a little bit involved getting some carries, Ramondre is going to have a very, very nice floor for you. So continue to start him, if that's what you're looking for. And I think that given the fact that the Patriots can move the ball through the air against this Minnesota defense, it is very possible that, just like Zeke and Pollard, Pollard, his second touchdown was on the ground, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Both of his touchdowns came through the air. Yeah.
Both of them did? Okay, gotcha. So
both
Zeke
of them,
had the
one
two
was
touchdowns on the ground.
Yeah. Zeke had 2 on the ground. Pollard had two through the air. The one was a leak out just a check down, and he took it for 30 yards. And then the 68-yard bomb down the sideline, which was apparently a play call at the line. So.
Oh, okay. There you go. So Zeke, just the same way that Zeke ended up getting those two touchdowns last week at the goal line, it's a very similar thing that can happen with Ramondre this week, where they move the ball primarily through the air. I get it. You might think the Patriots don't have a lot of great options, but they have Jacoby. Devontae Parker is maybe he might be healthy for a game here. They have a couple other guys that they can pass the ball to. So there could be some opportunities for him in the red zone. So I do like him this week, regardless of this being a tough matchup for running backs. Damian Harris, he's like a flex play in very deep leagues, but I wouldn't overreact to the couple big plays that he had last week.
Yeah, Ramondre Stevenson's been pretty matchup proof. I mean, his numbers, regardless of whether he scores a touchdown or not, or who he's playing against, have been very startable and at least RB2, and he has the RB1 upside. There's no reason not to start Stevenson moving forward, even with, like you said, Damian Harris kind of coming on, exploding on a couple runs on red zone we talked about earlier this week. So Ramondre Stevenson, I have no trouble starting him as an RB1. He's rest of the season RB1, definitely. He has RB1 upside. He could get in, he could sneak in the top 5 a few weeks if he catches a few passes and scores touchdowns. Yeah, I think he's definitely one of the best running backs for fantasy right now.
Hunter just asked in the chat, "Hey guys, I just got offered Kenneth Walker for CD Lamb, full PPR, no brainer, right?"
Is it no brainer? I don't know.
This
What do
is
you
a no
think?
brainer for me. I'm
You
taking
think?
Kenneth Walker. Yeah,
All
I'm
right,
taking
if
Kenneth Walker here, just because he's a running back. He's a
yeah, the
RB1.
positional value. Yeah, I hear you.
Position of
That
value is so
makes
much
sense.
more important here, and the Seahawks are good offense. Kenneth Walker's a good talent. He can get volume in any given game. He started getting involved in the pass game a little bit. We might see a little bit of that more towards the end of the year. Yeah, I'm doing this. I love CeeDee Lamb, but I'm taking Kenneth Walker here every time.
It might also help that if Dallas would sign Odell, that could hurt CD Lamb a little bit. So
there you go.
There's
There
a
you go.
chance.
So
Things seem to
and
be
and that
trending that
wouldn't
way.
normally happen on any other team,
Right.
but Dak loves to spread it out.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately. On the Patriots side, that's really about it. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I think Mac Jones is a streamer this week. I ain't gonna lie. I know it
Yeah,
sounds
the way the
gross.
Vikings defense is playing, yeah.
I know it sounds gross, but I have Mac Jones. Mac Jones. I have him as my QB 21 this week, so maybe he's not maybe I don't think he's as good of a streamer as I say he is, because it's like, do you really start him over guys like Mariota, Brissett, even Matt Ryan against Pittsburgh at home, Taylor Heineke, Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers? Would you start him over any of those guys?
No,
Probably not.
I don't think I would.
So
But it's funny.
I guess
Apparently,
I guess he's a good start in 2 quarterback leagues. I'm starting him
yeah,
in my 2 quarterback leagues this week, and I feel like good about it because I'm never able to start him.
yeah. It's funny
But
because you call it good enough streamer. I have your trade proposal here. Mac Jones for Justin Herbert. You think he's that good a streamer for this week?
did I send that trade to you?
You sent that to me, yes. I know it's probably a
What?
joke. But yeah, I have a Mac Jones
Oh,
for Justin
yes,
Herbert
yes.
trade.
I
Yeah.
did send that to you. You know why I sent that to you?
Why's
Because I
that?
was testing out the trade deadline.
Oh, for real?
I
Okay,
think
I
I
was
sent
gonna
that to you
say.
yesterday, I think.
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Or
2
something.
days
Yeah,
ago,
yeah,
so something like that. But I
yeah.
laughed
Yeah,
when I
yeah.
saw that. I was like, I know you were talking
That wasn't
about
a real trade. I'm sorry. I
it's
forgot
funny.
to. I'm pretty sure I withdrew it. Like I withdrew it
It
right
could
away.
be. It's showing up in my
Yeah.
chat. But
I
yeah.
was I wanted to check because I was like, all right, well, in Sleeper, like the last day of the trade deadline, it was actually Sunday. Oh no, it was actually Monday. Like
After the
even
games.
though once the games were done on Tuesday, you could not make any trades. And I thought that okay, maybe the week started like on Wednesday after waivers ran, but I guess not. With the week starts that Tuesday. So
Yeah.
I couldn't make any trades, unfortunately. Okay. All right, moving forward, Viking side. Kirk Cousins, this is a little bit of a tough matchup, but they're at home. I'm not really too worried about it. I have Kirk as my QB 13 on the week, right behind Daniel Jones. It's a toss up between those two guys. I think the Patriots defense is a little bit vulnerable, like depending on the weapons. Like he has Diggs, he has Hawkinson. Dalvin Cook, obviously you're starting him as well. I have him as a top 10 running back play as well this week. I think, even though the matchup doesn't seem amazing on paper, they're at home. And the Vikings, their offense couldn't get anything going against the Cowboys a few days ago. I think they can get right this week against the Patriots.
Right. The Patriots are a good defense, but one thing that the Vikings have going for them, and you can interpret this whatever way you want. If you get shellacked like the Vikings did on Sunday, to be able to turn around and just try to dispel that notion that the team sucks, you're able to do that 4 days later on Thanksgiving. Like if you had to sit a whole week, that wouldn't sit well. That would just be brewing. I feel like to be able to turn around and just have an immediate chance to come back and answer that performance might be good for this Vikings offense, even though Patriots defense is pretty good. They just shut down the Jets. The Jets have playmakers, even though Breece Hall is out. And Zach Wilson was having a rough day, but that's a conversation for another time. But I wouldn't discount the fact that the Patriots defense is good, but I think the Vikings have a much better chance. They're going to have a much better day than they did against the Cowboys a few days ago.
I'm with you. All right. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, Hawkinson, you're starting him as a top 3, top 4 tight end this week. His usage over the past couple weeks since they traded for him has been amazing. So keep starting him. He's an every week start. No brainer.
Yeah.
Same thing with Stephon Diggs, obviously. I'm sorry, Stephon Diggs. We're talking about the Vikings here. Again.
That's
yeah.
But TJ Hawkinson, Bills, take notes. Use Naeem Hines like that, maybe. Because
I mean, listen, man.
You trade for a player, you use them.
Use them. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the rankings here. We got We're not going to have graphics up for the quarterback rankings today, but I'm going to talk about it. Okay, so at number 1 here, I got Patrick Mahomes against the Rams, followed by Jalen Hurts at number 2, Josh Allen at number 3. Okay, Josh Allen would normally be number 1, but he's a little bit banged up. Didn't have the best game last week, fantasy wise. So even against Detroit, I don't think I can rank him over Jalen Hurts at home against Green Bay and Patrick Mahomes at home against the Rams. Mahomes is just balling, right?
Yeah.
So there's no one. I'm not ranking anyone over him right now. Without Tyreek Hill, who would have knew? Who would have knew? The dude is still good.
Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you had me in the offseason be like, hey, man, I don't think I can draft Patrick Mahomes where he's being drafted because, he lost Tyreek Hill, blah, 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 blah. Nope, wrong.
That's
wrong.
what everybody was
Patrick
saying.
No,
everyone,
I don't think so. Not everybody was saying that. I got a lot of pushback on that.
Everyone was up in arms, I feel like, about his ADP just, as a quarterback being so high.
Yeah, that I still kind of agree with. It's more like, it's not worth it at all because like he can't come through without Tyreek Hill. So it's like, why is he still being taken there? But at the end of the day, like he is that type of talent that proved that where he was being taken at his ADP. And it could still be argued whether it was still worth it because quarterback differentiation. But you look at the other quarterbacks now, past like Josh Allen and Hurts, I think Joe Burrow is going to be entering that conversation soon because he just said that. He just said, I got an alert here that he just got an alert that that he's going to have Jamar Chase this week. So Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Should I include Tyler Boyd? Because he's been disappointing over the past.
He's just been quiet. He's always been a good wide receiver 3. You're not gonna say he's not a good receiver.
I'm upset at Tyler Boyd.
Yeah. That's the thing with Patrick Mahomes. He's a perfect combination. He's just a perfect fantasy quarterback, perfect real life quarterback. He's scoring touchdowns, regardless of the matchup. His floor is so high, it's like 20 points, which is ridiculous. And that's why it's funny saying that like people were up in arms about drafting him so high, but would you be mad about drafting a player with a 20-point floor and a 40-point ceiling? And what would you go in the 3rd round?
You know what's crazy? Like from weeks 5 through 9, he scored, and that's 5 weeks. He scored 4 rushing touchdowns during that time, and like it's a lot of them are sneaks. But hey, man, I'll take it. And in the 2 games that he had Jamar Chase for, he threw for 303 and 481 and 3, and then Jamar Chase got hurt in that game. But since then he's still been solid. He didn't have that ceiling, but now with Jamar Chase back, Joe Burrow has a good chance to be top 5 rest of the season, and it's possible that he ends up being a better fantasy quarterback than Lamar Jackson. I mean, I have him ranked above Lamar Jackson this week, but you had guys like Justin Herbert, you had guys like Justin Fields who's now banged up, So Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow might end up being top 5, top 4. I have 2 at 5 here, but it's looking like if Jamar Chase is truly healthy and he's good to go the rest of the way, these guys stay pretty healthy. I think Joe Burrow is going to have an extremely good end of season.
Yeah, and we kind of saw that last season where he came on at the end of the season. He was having these massive games. Joe Burrow is just going to be. He's a very good floor. He's a very good quarterback. I've seen a couple people in the fantasy community saying he's overrated, not just as fantasy, but just in general. But it's like, how do you even say that? I mean, people are saying, oh, the Bengals, they have a couple losses on their resume. They're not looking like they're as good as they were last season, but they have the same record this year as they did this time last year. So it's like Joe Burrow's going to do his thing. He's going to be perfectly fine. I feel like you said, you have to rank him over Lamar now at this point because Lamar Jackson's he hasn't been running, which is disappointing, but he also doesn't have many weapons.
I know that's the problem, and I have 2 over Lamar this week. I have them at 5 and 6. And it's simply because he has Tyreek Hill and he has Jalen Waddle. Not the most amazing matchup in terms of points allowed, to quarterbacks by Houston. But at the end of the day, he's at home and he has these awesome weapons. So I'm going to start him over Lamar. And Tua's been putting up numbers. So, I'm not going to discount that. And he's been doing well. And even in games like, a couple games ago where Tyreek and Jalen didn't do their thing, like didn't have big games, he still threw for 3 touchdowns. Right. Yeah. So, he can still be efficient. He's going to have a really good running game supporting him as well. So I like Tua there. Lamar, he's playing in Jacksonville, but Listen, look what happened last week against Carolina, man, at home. That was super disappointing. Carolina's a shitty team. Okay, so let's not I thought the Ravens were going to handle business, but it took the whole game.
Yeah,
for them to win that game.
And we talk about Lamar Jackson's rushing ability being what makes him the high upside quarterback, but that rushing ability doesn't make him a high upside quarterback alone if the passing isn't there. He didn't throw any touchdowns. He threw a pick. I think he only had like 100-some yards through the air. And he had Mark Andrews. So it's like that worries me a little bit. And I'm not saying
he had 200 yards passing this past week. But I think what it really comes down to is the rushing, right? Like, he has to have those high rushing games. If he's not going to have the passing yards, he needs to like rush for like at least 60, 70 yards.
Yeah. And we talked about that. I just feel like that he's not taking off. They're not running as many design runs. Maybe, I don't know. The yardage has been down. It just doesn't seem like when he drops back that he's getting as many rushing attempts as we'd like him to get, or as we've seen him get recently. Well, I guess he ran the ball 11 times. But he hasn't been as explosive as we've seen him. He had those 200-yard games in weeks 2 and 3. Since then, I mean, what? Has he eclipsed 70 yards twice?
Yeah.
3 times, maybe. Yeah, 3 times. Because the week before against New Orleans, at 82 yards. But it seems like those first 2 weeks, the passing and the rushing were working together. And since then, it's either been, the passing doing well and the rushing lagging behind, or the rushing doing well and the passing lagging behind. So
I'll say this about Lamar, though. If you have him, he could turn it on at any moment.
Yep.
Okay. Like,
that's the thing.
He has Cleveland, Atlanta, and Pittsburgh. So he has, after Jacksonville and Denver, weeks 14 through 17, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Atlanta, and Pittsburgh. So he could do his thing in those games, and he has massive upside regardless. So not looking to bench him for any streamers or anything like that, even though he hasn't been putting up the numbers. And honestly, if you streamed, what's crazy? Since week 4, if you streamed quarterbacks and you've done it relatively well, you would have fared better on a per game basis than just starting Lamar every week.
Yeah,
which is crazy to say.
Consider Jacoby Brissett blew Lamar's production out of the water last week against a good Bills defense. So it's like, you never know.
Yeah. No, it's tough, but he could turn it on at any point, and he still has that 30-point ceiling.
Yeah,
and hopefully that happens sometime soon. Maybe with his new wide receiver 1, Demarcus Robinson,
newfound wide receiver 1.
All right, so I got Dak at 7. Should I put Dak over Lamar?
I don't know. I don't think I would. The way the Cowboys lean on the run game, and he was super efficient last week, and he's been good. But like you said, Lamar Jackson could turn on anytime. So I would leave Lamar just still this week. It's hard to not have him ranked higher. If I had to pick between Lamar and Dak, I'd put Lamar in, and I'm a Cowboys fan. So
Clyde Edwards-Helaire just got placed on IR. So he's going to be out for at least 4 games. We knew he was going to be out for a while anyway because he had a high ankle sprain.
Yep.
But now it's Isaiah Pacheco's show on early downs in that backfield. But we kind of knew that already.
Yeah.
But it's just like Andy Reid can't change his mind now. I'm curious to see if Andy Reid ends up if they end up signing Melvin Gordon,
Darrell
Henderson.
Yeah.
Right. Could happen.
Be. Yeah, I mean,
if these guys do get signed, it's possible that they just move up to the RB1 in that backfield. It's very possible.
It's possible. Yeah, but also it looks like I just got an alert. Davis Mills is getting benched. So
I gotta pick up Kyle Allen real quick. Let me go pick him up. Let me go to the league. Superflex league.
What if I need him? No, I'm kidding.
Kyle, you can do it if you want to. Shit, man. Kyle Allen. Who am I dropping though?
I don't know.
Who am I dropping, man?
All right. You know what this means? It says less about the quarterback change than it does about maybe Dameon Pierce. Finally, if this offense looks any better, Dameon Pierce maybe could finally, have a little relevance again. Because past 2 weeks he hasn't been.
What am I doing? Kyle Allen stinks. I'm leaving him on the waiver wire. You
deep in the trenches. Deep in the trenches here.
I already missed out on Joe Flacco. We don't even know who's starting, by the way. Zach Wilson's going to get benched.
I think they said Mike White. I think I saw somewhere that Mike White.
Did they say it?
I just saw reports somewhere. I don't know exactly what the source was, but
let's see.
It looked official.
I mean,
on Instagram.
It's worth noting. Jets named Mike White to start Sunday versus Chicago, according to Adam Schefter. There you go. Right. There it is, Mike White. You know what that means, right? It means that the Jets running backs might get peppered in the pass game.
I'd rather Joe Flacco for that scenario, but It could be.
Do you remember that game with one of these games that Mike White started? It was Ty Johnson and Michael Carter. I think they combined for like 30 targets.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, dude.
Let me see
Last
this.
year,
Mike White. Check this game.
absolutely insane.
Is that the
dude.
game that he blew up in? Where he just went like,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
who'd they beat? The Bengals.
It was one of the games that he
Yeah.
blew up in. Yeah,
They beat the Bengals. He threw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's what it was. Yeah. So Michael Carter. What did he have? We're really going off the cuff today. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
we really
but,
are. We're not playing.
Holy crap. Yeah. So Cincinnati in that game, Michael Carter had 14 targets. You had 9 catches for 95 yards.
What about Ty Johnson? I'm pretty sure he had some.
Ty Johnson. He got
6 targets.
Yeah, 6 targets, 5 catches, 71 yards. He did catch a touchdown though too. So, okay,
there you go.
Maybe we're okay with Mike White. You know, if you have Jets running backs, maybe you're okay with Mike White as much as
I can easily see Mike White shit in the bed too, and then they just bring in Joe Flacco next week. It can easily happen. But it's a good matchup though. It's a good matchup against the Bears.
Do you think Zach Wilson has any chance of getting his job back this season or no? You think they're done with him?
I think they're done. I think the only way that he comes back is if somehow the Jets get lost, like they don't make the playoffs. Like they're like, all right, you're mathematically eliminated. All right, let's put Zach Wilson back in and see if he learned anything. See if he learned his lesson.
Let's
see how terrible these quarterbacks are now. Can't wait.
It's such a weird position to be in because they're a very good team outside the quarterback position.
Exactly. They can't get that quarterback situation right, unfortunately. Yeah. Where the hell were we, dude? Like, what the hell
were we at? Number 8, Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert. Going up against Arizona. Solid matchup. We don't know if he's going to have Mike Williams or not. You know, he has Keenan Allen, which is awesome, which is why I have him at QB8. If he didn't, then I wouldn't have him there. But this is a pretty solid matchup, so I'm happy starting him this week. Justin Fields, and I was, you know, people were like, "Oh, what about Josh Palmer?" He has Josh Palmer. It's like, listen, they were going up against the Chiefs last week. Okay, a lot of wide receivers do well against the Chiefs. Let's not overdo it. Okay, he'll be fine. But Mike Williams, you know, I prefer him to play if I want Justin Herbert to have a great game.
Right.
I have Justin Fields at number 9.
I feel like that's fair
against the Jets. You do. Okay, good, because you're the Justin Fields guy here. And
yeah, I am.
You know, I feel like at the end of the day, you know, against the Jets, tough matchup. Number 1, number 2, you know, he has a bum shoulder, and if he does end up playing, they might limit him a little bit.
You have to. That's the whole thing. We've seen Justin Fields play well, but it's come almost exclusively from the run game. You know, him taking off and running with the football instead of throwing it. He's been all right. He's been efficient with throwing, but we saw earlier in the season when they weren't using him in the run game too much that the offense struggled a little bit and that Justin Fields wasn't putting up huge numbers. He shouldn't rely on his throwing, on throwing, you know, for most of the season in any instance. So with him having a bum shoulder against a good defense, like you said, in the Jets, I'm definitely tempering expectations. There's a chance he doesn't play. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think this is something they could play through. They'll give him a sling and they'll have him play anyway. But you know, maybe they take the err on the side of caution and they hold him out. But if he plays, he's a QB1. But the upside, that 40-point upside that we saw, you know, it's kind of out the window. I think we're looking more at a 24, 25-point upside, and I think he'd be a mid to low QB1 for me.
I'm going to go ahead and race through the rest of these quarterback rankings, and then we're going to start the running back rankings. By the way, guys, since Thanksgiving is tomorrow, I'm going to have all of my rankings done today. So you can go over to the Patreon page, and you can see all the rankings, all the positional rankings, plus flex. So if you're trying to decide between a running back and a wide receiver for your flex, you'll have those rankings up there as well. Okay. The blurbs might not be up, though, until Friday, but that's fine. Because if you have decisions to make, you know, we'll be taking all that stuff into account into the rankings, and obviously things will change depending on injuries going into Sunday. But at least you kind of have an idea of, you know, who to start, who not to start for tomorrow's games. So that will be up there. Patreon.com/upperhandfantasy. You'll have the link in the bio.
Yeah, and if there's no blurb, you know, for your Thanksgiving Day players, just tune back into this podcast. You know, go back 15, 20 minutes. We were talking about the games, so you can just hear what we had to say about them there.
Exactly. Okay, so the quarterback rankings. So we had Justin Fields at number 9. I got Geno Smith at 10 against Vegas at home. I do like him there. It's a good matchup. Yeah. Jimmy G at home against New Orleans. I like him too. Look what he did. 4 touchdowns thrown. He has the weapons, man. He has so many weapons. Like he's a quarterback one at this point. He's a low end quarterback one every single week. I would be happy starting him. If you picked him up after Trey Lance went down, like you got a decent quarterback here.
The thing is, Jimmy G was never bad. It's just they wanted to see what they had in Trey Lance, and
he was just never like a fantasy.
Yeah,
starter,
he's not a fantasy goat. Yeah, no, he's not the fantasy guy. But when you give him all those weapons, it's hard not to be. As long as you're a decent quarterback, this is the type of production you can see.
100%. Okay. Daniel Jones, I have him at number 12 here against Dallas. We talked about him. Kirk Cousins, we talked about him. I have him at 13, followed by Tom Brady at Cleveland at 14, Marcus Mariota at 15, followed by Jacoby Brissett. This might be a little bit high for him, but I kind of like him in this matchup against Tampa Bay at home. Matt Ryan against Pittsburgh, I moved him up a little bit because I think that matchup is fine at home, and he has the weapons.
Yep.
Taylor Heineke, I like him against Atlanta. Who would you rather start? Taylor Heineke, I have him at 18 right now. Who would you rather start, him, Matt Ryan, or Jacoby Brissett? What order would you put that in?
I think I would go with Jacoby Brissett. And it might be recency bias.
How about between Matt Ryan and Heineke?
I think I'd start Matt Ryan.
Okay, boom. So you have him just like how I do. And then Derek Carr at 19 against Seattle. Aaron Rodgers at 20 at Philly. That's a tough matchup for Aaron Rodgers. That's why I have him all the way down here.
That makes sense. The thing that's swinging me for Jacoby Brissett is that if he's at home, that means he's going to have Amari Cooper, where he wouldn't if it was on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys who used to seeing as streamers is Trevor Lawrence, but I have him at 22 against Baltimore, right? That's a tough matchup for him. I moved Mac Jones up a lot, up to 21 against Minnesota. Jared Goff, I have him at 24 against Buffalo. You think that's a little brutal for Jared Goff against Buffalo, or no?
I don't think that's brutal. I think it makes sense. Okay. Jared Goff, I could see him having a bad week. Lions.
It doesn't take much.
No, it doesn't take much to shake him a little bit. Sometimes you see him look shaken. If they can get a run game going against the Bills, then I think he'll be fine. But other than that, it's going to be tough sled.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we got about 10 minutes left in this podcast, so we're going to kind of go through these running backs as quick as possible, but still give you a little bit of context. Okay, wide receiver and tight end rankings show will be up on Friday today. No podcast tomorrow on Thanksgiving. By the way, guys, have a happy Thanksgiving. Okay, enjoy yourselves, eat a lot, enjoy your family. Remember. I was telling my wife this yesterday, and I know we don't have that much time left, but I feel like
fine. It's a Thanksgiving episode.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm a big foodie. I love food a lot.
Yeah,
but I just want to say that a lot of times at the end all be all might seem like the food, but the end all be all is really the people that you're spending the time with. The food is just like the vessel for you to kind of spend time with your family and friends. The people that you love. Okay, that's what it's about. Okay, just like spend as much time as you can with the people that you love. And, the food is just a reason to get together, but at least you're getting together, right? That's all I want to say. I just wanted to say that because I feel like there's this whole thing about the food, blah, blah, blah. Like, and it's great. I just bought my turkey this morning. I'm going to be making turkey again for the second time in like 6 days because they made one on Saturday too for our Friendsgiving. But like at the end of the day, I didn't even care how the food tasted.
Yeah,
I mean, I do care because I want everyone to like the food. But at the end of the day, what matters is that I'm laughing and I'm having fun and I'm chilling with all my peoples.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, just I always say, and you hear it a lot, the 4 Fs: food, friends, family, football. Go enjoy it. Freaking talk to the relatives that you haven't seen in a while. Go talk to everybody because freaking when are you gonna get the opportunity to have everybody in the same
even
place
Uncle Frank. Even Uncle Frank. I know you don't want to talk to Uncle Frank. Just talk to him.
Uncle Frank. Yeah, just go and talk to everybody and just have a good time and enjoy it. The way things are. That's what. Oh, yeah. Happy Thanksgiving.
100%. Happy Thanksgiving, Josh. Appreciate you, man. All right, let's get back into it real quick. Okay. I got Austin Eckler number 1. No surprise at Arizona. Yep. I would have Saquon. I had Saquon there at number 1 last week. That didn't work out so well. He had an uncharacteristically bad game against a bad defense. Didn't see that coming at all for Saquon. But I do have my number 2, in Dallas. And Derrick Henry, you might think that you want to have him at number 3. Cincinnati's a tough defense also against the run. But maybe you want to have Derrick Henry over Barkley. I get it. But Dallas isn't a great Russian defense. I think this game's going to be a lot closer than people think. Division game. It's going to be a tough one. Both teams want this super badly. So I think that it's going to be a close game. And Saquon's involved in the pass game. I just like him a little bit more than Derrick Henry this week.
Yeah, not just for the win do both teams want it, but also because it's the Odell Bowl. This is how you make your impression on Odell. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I think it'll be close. I think it makes sense to have Saquon there. Dalvin Cook, what he had 11 carries for 72 yards last week. He just didn't get the touches.
It was really because of the blowout, right?
Pretty much. Was a blowout. But you think about it, 72 yards on 11 carries. That's pretty darn good. If you up that to 20 carries, that's easily over 100 yards. That's like 130 yards and a touchdown. That
exactly. And
Dallas' defense has been porous against the run.
And literally, like, what did we talk about with Saquon's over under, his higher lower? Saquon's was at
76.
76. So he could do it too.
I think he should be smashing that over button or the higher button. That's what they call it. The higher button.
I agree.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry at 3. I feel like these 3 are like the top 3, pretty much rest of the season.
Yep, that's where it's going to be.
Christian McCaffrey, I have him here at number 4. Against New Orleans, he doesn't have the same ceiling that he's had before. Even his floor, honestly, isn't as high.
Yeah,
unfortunately. He has that like 18-point floor. He kind of scored that the last 2 games in PPR. The good thing is that at least he's being peppered he's being used in the pass game a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm happy about using in the pass game, especially because we haven't seen Kyle Shanahan really do that lately. The last time he's really used his running backs in the pass game was when they had Carlos Hyde, when they had Matt, I think it was Matt Breida.
Yeah,
I think they had that 1-2 punch like several years back when they were like peppering the running backs in the pass game. But that's really because they didn't have that many weapons. But now they're really going after it with Christian McCaffrey, which I love.
Yeah, you have to figure that's why they brought Christian McCaffrey in, to add that receiving dimension to the backfield. Because with Elijah Mitchell, yeah, he's a very good runner, but he wasn't much of a pass catcher. And now they have Christian McCaffrey. I think the days of Christian McCaffrey being ranked as your RB1 on a weekly basis are over at this point.
Yeah, unless Elijah Mitchell gets hurt again.
Yeah.
That would be the only way. If Elijah Mitchell ends up getting hurt again, I'm moving CMC back to number 1.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But as long as he's being used like this with Elijah Mitchell, obviously in the fold, I don't think he's going to be ranked as an RB1. He can still finish as an RB1, but we're not going to rank him that way just because the volume isn't there to have that.
I have Nick Chubb at number 5 against Tampa Bay. It's one of those things with Nick Chubb. You got to start him. You got to assume that he's going to get the volume. Any given week. This is not the same Tampa rushing defense that we're used to over the past couple of years. They're a little bit more vulnerable, and they're at home. So I think Nick Chubb can have a pretty good day this week. I moved up Kenneth Walker. He's back this week, against Vegas. Vegas gives up a ton of fantasy points to running backs.
Yeah.
And I think the Seahawks are going to be running the ball a lot. I think they're going to be up in this game. And I think there's a very good chance that Kenneth Walker ends up with, 20, 22 carries in this game pretty easily. So he can score. Vegas has really given up a lot of touchdowns to running backs this year in both the rushing game and the passing game. If they're working him into the passing game a little bit more, man, his ceiling is huge rest of the season.
Sky high. I mean, he had 8 targets last week, and obviously that came with a lowered rushing workload. That was it Germany? Maybe it was just the Seahawks traveled a long way to get to Germany. So, maybe that's something that affected him. I'm not worried about the workload going forward. Definitely not against the Raiders defense, which has been pretty horrendous. They might have looked a little bit better than they've been last week because they were playing the Broncos. So you can give them that credit, but unless Max Crosby is taking over the game, this defense isn't anything to worry about as far as the fantasy matchup goes. I think Kenneth Walker should get back on the horse and have a huge week.
I agree. Jonathan Taylor, I have him here number 7 against Pittsburgh. Josh Jacobs at Seattle. The reason why I don't have Jacobs higher, honestly, is because I do think Seattle is going to go up in this game. I think they're going to be fine at home, and Jacobs might lose a little bit of volume because of it. Then I got Dalvin Cook at number 9 here against New England. Tony Pollard at number 10 against the Giants. Ramondre Stevenson. We talked about Pollard, by the way, earlier in our Dallas preview for the Thanksgiving games. Ramondre Stevenson at Minnesota, talked about him earlier as well. James Conner, I moved him up back to a low-end RB1, top 12 here. He's number 12 against the Chargers at home. Whether or not Kyler Murray plays, if he doesn't play, I think that they're going to really lean on James Conner. And if they can stay in that game, he can get a lot of work. Regardless, he's going to be using the passing game as well. So I like him against the Chargers. A team that not only gives up a lot of rushing yards on a per carry basis, but they also give up a lot of fantasy points to the opposing running backs as well.
Yeah, I think if Kyler Murray plays in this game, this could be a shootout. Because the way these defenses have been playing hasn't been very good, and the offenses are explosive. They have playmakers, and
Yeah,
James
and
Conner.
how it seems like Hollywood's coming back too.
Yeah, and James Conner, he's had a role, even though he only got 14 carries. He got 5 targets in the passing game, and that was in a blowout.
Yep.
So it seems like his workload is locked in a regular positive or even game script, neutral game script. That's what they call it. He's going to have 20 touches a game, and that's all you can ask for.
77% of snaps, in a matchup like this, you have to start him.
Yeah.
Regardless of who the quarterback is. Jeff Wilson, I moved him up all the way to number 13 this week against Houston at home. He's the lead back there. This is a no-brainer for me. He's a great start this week.
Yeah. Any running back against Houston, great start.
Exactly. Yeah, and the fact that he got so much work and he's the clear 1A, this is a no-brainer one for me.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones at number 14 against Philly. You worry that Green Bay doesn't get a lot going in this game. However, they have a little weapon in Christian Watson now. Maybe it truly does change the dynamic of the offense. We'll see. But I'm good starting Aaron Jones. I have him over Travis Etienne. I have Etienne really low. I have Alvin Kamara really low. I have them at 15 and 16 this week. But Etienne is going up against Baltimore. They are at home. And if it's anything like last week against Carolina, maybe he can get some volume. I'm a little bit worried about this matchup, but it's really, really hard to bench Etienne. He's just that type of player where you gotta have him in your lineup most weeks. Alvin Kamara at San Francisco, I have him at 16. This offense, might not fare too well against San Francisco in San Francisco because they can score points. They can put you in negative game scripts. And not that it matters for Kamara because he can get a lot of targets. But what I mean by that is they can just go one-dimensional, and then you just got those pass rushers just going after Andy Dalton every time he gets the ball. So this could be a rough outing for the Saints. That's why I have him at 16 and I have Etienne at 15.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And you talk about the Saints. I don't think it's crazy to have Kamara this low because you got two things going against it. You have 49ers defense just being ridiculous, and we saw they relegated the Cardinals to offensive irrelevance. They just weren't very good. And that was with a backup quarterback playing. And technically, Andy Dalton's a backup. So this could be a bad game for him. But you also have the fact that you said 16 games, 32 teams playing. It's going to shove some players down a little bit, just because there are so many. I remember I looked at the schedule and I was like, man, there's a bunch of games on Thursday. It's probably going to be an empty red zone slate, on Sunday. I was like, wait, no, it's actually filled up. So good on the schedule makers for the NFL for giving us a full week of Thanksgiving football.
100%. Jamal Williams, I have him here number 17 against Buffalo. We talked about him earlier as well. Samaje Perine, I'm assuming that Joe Mixon is out this week. I don't think we got any practice reports for Joe Mixon. Did he get a limited practice in today or not? I'm not sure if we did. Joe Mixon is still in concussion protocol according to Zach Taylor.
Yeah,
but
no
did he? Training staff, I'm told there's a reasonable chance Joe Mixon passed the concussion protocol this week and plays Sunday. I'm sure there is, but did he get a practice in? That's the question. So,
all right.
We'll find out about that. If he got a limited practice in today on a Wednesday, it's a pretty good chance that he can pass the concussion protocol. Yeah. If he does not practice today, then there's much less of a chance. Then he goes through the concussion protocol just fine. You want him to get a limited practice in at least on Thursday and then a full on Friday in order for him to be ready to play on Sunday. Okay, right. So I'm assuming. Let's assume he doesn't play. I have Samaje Perine up here at number 18. If Joe Mixon were to play, I'll probably move him up above Aaron Jones at 14. That's probably where I'll move him to. But Samaje Perine at Tennessee, it's a very tough matchup. But with Jamar Chase back, with this whole offense back, like we talked about earlier, like the Bengals can air it out. They can do their thing. And Samaje Perine can be in very opportune situations. Also, Tennessee has given up the most receptions to running backs this season. So Perine is going to be pretty involved in the passing game. And he already is. So the good thing is that, kind of plays into what Tennessee has been doing on defense against running backs.
Right. Yeah, I think Samaje Perine's a good play as long as Joe Mixon's out. If Joe Mixon's out, I'm not starting him. I'm not thinking that, maybe he'll hold on to some work just because Joe Mix might be limited. I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Zach, man, he's not starting Perine if Joe Mixon starts. Not that if he starts, he won't play Mixon.
Yeah. Okay, fair. Yeah, I hear you.
Yep, we got Gibson here at number 19. Great role. He led he had more carries than what's his name? Washington.
Washington.
Antonio Gibson had more
Brian
carries
Robinson.
than
Brian Robinson.
Brian Robinson.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you,
the
Zach.
name.
He had more carries than Brian Robinson last week, and he was the primary pass catching running back as well, playing on all the 2-minute snaps and all that. So he is a every week RB2 rest of way, especially given the fact that JD McKissic is on IR. So good news for Gibson moving forward. Decent matchup against Atlanta. Solid player. He's going to be right around 18, 19 every single week for me.
Gibson's trending.
Damian Pierce at number 20 at Miami. He's down here pretty heavily, and if this gets into a negative game script, which it can, then Damian Pierce might not have as great of a week, as you want him to. He's been a little bit down over the last couple of weeks, but his floor has been relatively high, for an RB2, aside from last week.
Yeah.
But do I think he's going to get it back going this week
with Kyle Allen?
In Miami? With Kyle Allen, maybe.
With Kyle Allen. Sometimes that's all it takes. We'll see.
Not moving Pierce up, though.
I don't think so. Yeah.
David Montgomery, I have him here at 21 against the Jets. I might have Montgomery higher in most weeks, but he is going up against the Jets in New York. Not the best matchup in the world. We also don't know the status of Justin Fields. So, there's some questions there. Even though I like Montgomery as a 3-down back, not the best matchup in the world.
No, I'm not a big fan of that matchup at all.
Miles Sanders at 22 against Green Bay. Solid. So, he's like a solid low-end RB2 every single week, pretty much. Yep. And against Green Bay, who's been leaky, their run defense has been leaky this year. At home, I think he could be solid for you. And Latavius Murray at Carolina, Latavius Murray can assume a 3-down role this week. We'll see, because Mike Boone isn't back. They just lost Chase Edmonds. Murray might be on the field for 70 snaps. It's possible against Carolina. So he can get some volume. So I think he's a decent play this week. Is he too low, or is he just right?
No, I think that's just right. Okay. I don't think his ceiling goes very high, but his floor is pretty much locked in, where before it wasn't so locked in, but his floor is pretty much locked in because, like you said, to have Chase Evans get injured and then move on from Melvin Gordon anyway, that tells you they're comfortable having him in the backfield, And obviously the offense isn't that good, but Latavius Murray is going to get his touches, and he's going to be actually a decent start. If you pick him up off the waiver wire, he's going to be a quality starter for you until further notice.
Pretty much. I got Deontay Foreman against Denver at 24. I think he's in a situation this week where he can rack up volume, because if Denver doesn't score a lot of points, then he can rack up volume. But last week, it was also a close game, but they couldn't, the Carolina couldn't sustain any drives. Now they have Sam Darnold coming in. Will they be able to sustain drives? I don't know, because this is a tough matchup. Just thinking about Sam Darnold going up against Denver's pass defense is like a terrible thing to think about. It's really bad. So regardless, I feel like the Panthers are going to do worse with Sam Darnold this week than Baker.
That is Baker, a very low bar.
I hear you, but man, it could turn into with Baker, at least it won't be a disaster. They just will suck and not score points.
Yeah.
But with Sam Darnold, I feel like he could throw a pick 6 and it could be super messy.
Yeah.
I could see that happening this week. But it's in Denver too. Is that game in Denver?
It is not. No, it's in Carolina.
Oh yes, in Carolina. You're right.
Regardless, okay, so maybe, also looks like they're forecasting rain. So if it was already going to be a messy offensive showing,
yeah. I got Michael Carter here against Chicago. I think he can get some checkdowns, so I have him up a little higher than I normally would, even though this is a potentially 3-man backfield. Hopefully not. Hopefully him and James Robinson can kind of take over. But we've seen Ty Johnson come in and be a little pesk in the backfield.
Yeah.
And then Devin Singletary, I have him here at number 26 against Detroit, with James Cook coming on a little bit. Had to move him down. Rachaad White at 27 at Cleveland. Gus Edwards at 28 against Jacksonville, assuming that he's back. Leonard Fournette at 29 at Cleveland, and then Cordell Patterson at 30 at Washington. Let me get a quick take on your Rachaad White and Leonard Fournette in Tampa this week.
Yeah. So
what are you doing?
I want to put faith in Leonard Fournette that he's going to have, not only more touches, but better production. But Rachaad White has looked good, and it seems like things are trending towards Rachaad White, kind of being the guy there. If Leonard Fournette gets relegated to early down roles and Rachaad White takes over, passing downs, and maybe we see Rachaad White get a couple goal line carries, I think that value is going to go up for Rachaad White, and Leonard Fournette might be just kind of stuck in purgatory. high end RB3, low end RB2. I don't think this turns into a Zeke and Pollard situation, but it might be closer to what we saw out of Zeke and Pollard earlier in the season, where Zeke might get a goal line carry or two, and that might be enough to buoy his production. But Rachaad White looks like he's more explosive. So I would rank Leonard Fournette. This might be the last time I say I put Leonard Fournette over Rachaad White. Depending on how this week goes, it could change next week. But I'll put Leonard Fournette over Rachaad White just for now, and we'll see how it goes this week.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that play into it too is that Fournette is coming off the injury, so maybe he gets a little bit less work than he normally would if this was just two guys going into this game pretty healthy, coming off the bye. I don't know how healthy Leonard Fournette is coming into this game, so I just feel better starting Rachaad White this week. Right.
Okay. That makes sense.
And against Cleveland too, this is a good matchup. So I think both of them can do okay. But I prefer Rachaad White, a healthy Rachaad White coming off the bye. And then Gus Edwards, I'm starting him over Fournette because if he's going to play, I can see him having that goal line role if he does end up playing. So who gets the goal line carries for the Bucs? I don't know. It could be either of them, to be honest. I have no idea. But if Gus Edwards is active, I'm pretty confident that Gus Edwards will get those goal line carries for Baltimore.
Right.
And just to kind of quickly, 30, I have Cordell Patterson. 31, Zeke Elliott. 32, Isaiah Pacheco. 33, Najee Harris. 34, James Robinson. 35, DeAndre Swift. Followed by Brian Robinson, Raheem Mostert, Elijah Mitchell, Tyler Algier, and Kareem Hunt. That's where I'm ending it. That's it. Guys, have a happy Thanksgiving. If you want these rankings, go to patreon.com/upperhandfantasy. The link will also be in the description of wherever you're listening or watching. And you'll get all the rankings a little bit later today. Flex rankings and positional rankings. Take it easy, guys. Make sure you take advantage of the Underdog special offers for Thanksgiving. Use code UPPERHAND to double your first deposit up to $100. All right, guys. Zach, have a happy Thanksgiving, brother. Hope you have a good one. Everybody here, everyone listening, have a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy your time. And we'll see you guys on Friday. Later.